What does it mean when you have a full moon in Gemini exactly conjunct Mars while squaring Orcus, the punisher of broken O's, and reflecting back that sun in the middle of Sagittarius on what is known as the mysterious great attractor? You get a really fascinating story. And what may happen in your life and my life is what we're going to talk about today. This moon is happening on December the 7th or 8th, depending on where you live. And we're going to go into how it might show up in your world as a completion or a fruition or a climactic energy from things you were starting or doing in your life in the first 2 weeks of June. Listen for your rising sign. It will be the most accurate. Secondly, you can listen for your sun and moon. Don't know how to do your rising sign? Check my description box for a free tutorial video on how to cast your chart in whole sign houses using online software that's free. And then you'll know your rising sign. If you're new to my channel, my name is Lori and I am a Hellenistic astrologer using ancient and traditional tools such as Time Lords and whole sign houses. And I love asteroids, and in this case, Orcus, which is not an asteroid, but a body way the heck out in the Kuiper belt out near Neptune. But it's pretty fascinating stuff because these archetypes do show up in the real world as fascinating mirrors of our reality. So if you're new here, please hit the like button, subscribe if you wouldn't mind. It helps the channel grow. And if you're listening in the live chat premiere, don't forget to hit my like button as well. And also check my description box. People often say, what do you mean description box? It's like underneath the video, there's this whole section with my website and all of that. I'm teaching my Divine Timing Masterclass. You might want to jump aboard next February. There is a wait list, and it's for advanced beginner to intermediate astrology learners. Okay. Some divine timing tools using ancient astrology. Let's get rolling and talk now about this particular moon, which is on December 7th and 8th. And first of all, it's exactly at 16 degrees, exactly conjunct retrograde Mars. And this is making this also fascinating because Mars retrograde often doesn't do bombastic exterior warlike things, right? He actually pulls back from his normal movement, which is like, swords and knives and scalpels and sharp things and aggression and conflict and, delights in war, really. And he's going retrograde. So one thing you can say about retrogradation here on this moon is it's likely going to be more of an inner process. Mars can rule your motivation, your decisions, your action plans. And at this point, if he's going backwards, it's a lot about what you're mulling over. In each of our lives, that will be true. I doubt you're going to see this looking like an outer story of Mars, but an inner story. I think it might help to give you an example. All right. And I will also say, of course, that Gemini is mutable and it is ruled by Mercury. So there's a lot of change that comes with mutability. Think of mutations, right? So we have a very changeable place where this is happening. You may change your mind about something. Mars can do that when he's retrograde. So I'll give you an example from my life because it might be useful. So going back to the first 2 weeks of June, because that was just after the new moon on May 30th in Gemini, in my chart, because I'm an Aquarius rising, this makes it my 5th house of romantic love. It was in those first 2 weeks of June that I was invited into a relationship by somebody, and so that person initiated and began the ball rolling. And while we did have a relationship, June, July, August, September, as soon as Mars went retrograde at the end of October, I began to change my mind or to pull back or to go back over old ground about whether or not that was the right relationship for me or not. And now we have a full moon sort of culminating the start of what was a romantic relationship, and may at the full moon come to a completion, a harvest, a fruition, with Mars, the god of endings. So like what people don't know about Mars in the ancient world is they looked at him as the number one god of change. There was no Uranus. So he's kind of like cut, sever, end, right? If needed, make a decision if needed. So each of us here on this full moon on December 7th and 8th, and add 2 weeks for it to unfold before your very eyes, you'll likely make a change of plan, a decision about something, a fullness or a completion of whatever it was you were doing back in those first couple of weeks of June in the fallout of the new moon in Gemini that happened back on May 30th. Okay, so keep the idea of a bookend in mind as you listen for your sign. Now, the sun is sitting around 14 degrees and change. Let me take a look at the exact degree of everything here. Sure, well, the sun's at 16 degrees and the great attractor is around 14 and a half degrees. The great attractor is this mysterious object that's sucking all bunch of galaxies into like a black hole-like environment. But including the Milky Way, which swirls around it, but they don't understand the great attractor. A lot of things about it are confusing. I think it might be a dark matter thing because it doesn't have an event horizon. And if you don't have an event horizon, which is that sort of edge upon which all matter ceases to be visible as it collapses into a black hole, if you don't see event horizons in your telescope, you don't have a black hole. So it's not a black hole. But it seems to be receding dramatically from Earth, from our perspective. At the same time, it seems to be moving towards us. So at this point, there's people are baffled, like astronomers are baffled. It's a mysterious, weird thing called the Great Attractor. Okay. And there's a supercluster that we're a part of. The Milky Way is a part of this big supercluster galaxy thing. And we're a part of that. And so we're a part of what's going on with that Great Attractor. Like mystics and spiritual types will say, well, it's the divine mind, or it's a part of the, I don't know, the way the universe works. It's a God factor, who knows? But the moon is full opposite a sun on the Great Attractor. So you can also kind of go, wow, this is a full Martian moon in Gemini, 16 degrees, reflecting the Great Attractor where the sun is sitting, because all full moons reflect the light of the sun, and the sun is sitting with the Great Attractor. Now let's talk about Orcus before we get to all signs. This is an interesting, I've been playing with Orcus. Okay, so it's a Kuiper belt object. It's way out there by Neptune. There are many of those Kuiper belt objects. And so you can look at it in astrology. There's a number for it. You plunk it into a chart. And, this is like Pluto, Hades, hell, the god of the underworld, but it's an Etruscan god. I did a little research and I'm like, this is fascinating. So the Etruscans kind of looked at this as the punisher side of the underworld god. So, Pluto was also the god of wealth and, a lot of other things, not just like, punishing the souls of the dead. And Orcus was that punisher. And in fact, the Lord of the Rings ogre and the word ogre and all this stuff, and Tolkien's use of the word orc and ogre, I guess I was reading, is like coming out of the same word Orcus. So the Etruscans and the Romans sort of had this thing for Orcus. And there's a possible spin that he was purifying the souls who had done ill deeds as he was punishing them in the underworld. But take it as you will. He's kind of like a mean guy, and he does punishment basically, and underworld, because there's something you did that was naughty. So, your own life, you may encounter this punishing quality around this moon. I know it doesn't sound cheerful. I get it. Like, I'm like, oh my God, no, not the punisher of broken oaks. But what can you do? It's there. And where is it? It's sitting in Virgo, and it is at 15 degrees of Virgo, square the sun, square the moon. That creates what's called a T-square in the sky, like this. Okay. So technically the moon, just before it becomes full, will make a perfected T-square, like a couple of hours or 3 or 5 hours before, to Orcus. So it's like kind of really embedded in this full moon, some kind of tension, some critical tension, where there's this broken oath punishment story happening in the Virgo part of your sky, reflected in the full moon in the Gemini part of your sky. Okay. Technically, there's an argument when you have T-squares that there's a release point, and the release point is what is ever opposite Virgo. And that would make it the Pisces place of relief and release from the T-square tension. I'll bring that up in the all signs. The only thing that's really happening over there in Pisces, well, there's Jupiter, of course, sitting there in Pisces in his home sign, going direct at this point in the last couple of degrees. But there's also Neptune sitting there with asteroid Nemesis at about 22 degrees of Pisces. And, Neptune, confusion, delusion, fog, illusion, Nemesis, the proportional correction measures needed to balance justice is the traditional meaning of that. But I'll see if I can tie that in, weave that in for us. I'm going to show you the sky. When it comes to the collective, I might say that there could be stories in the news cycle, because Mercury, who is in Capricorn, the sign of wealth and banks and stocks and stock markets and industrial capitalism, he's the owner of the moon, the lunation lord, and he's really early in, like 1 degree of Capricorn. And technically, he's in aversion to the moon and the sun. He can't really participate in an in conjunct and semi-sextile relationship. So you could say that he's kind of offside and off duty. He's not really handling this full moon. He has no power over Mars sitting on that full moon. So in a way, he's just over there. He's not doing a lot. So I want to bring that up because I think to some degree, this is a feral or random or crazy ass Mars story. I mean, Mars has all the power here, not Mercury. Mercury's just doing his Capricorn thing on the sidelines. And technically, to me, that means that he's not doing much, really. He's quite a off-duty illumination lord, and not really paying much attention to it. But you can still argue that this is happening in Mercury's house. Full moon, Mars, so aggression, conflict, bold things, daring things, maybe aggressive things happening in a sign that has to do with the media, news, communication. So maybe there will be a news story that breaks, and with Mercury not having any agency over it, maybe it's also kind of a whistleblower thing or a leaky thing coming out. It may have to do with Capricorn themes, to do with governments and banks and markets and stuff like that, and wealth. It could have to do with that. We do know that there's still the FTX story unfolding, where Sam Fried-Bankman, basically collapsed $10 billion worth of wealth and is in the Bahamas. And maybe some of those stories will be coming out a little bit more. That's an example of something that could be in the cycle after this. And the new cycle after this, with Orcus, the Punisher of broken oaths. What was the oath that FTX had? It was fiduciary responsibility to all the people who put their money in the FTX crypto exchange, who now have zero bank accounts balances and can't convert their coin to fiat. So a lot of people suffered. This is like the Wolf of Wall Street disaster. So, and it took the whole crypto market down with it. So quite possibly, Punisher of broken oaths. We're going to see the story of, Sam Bankman coming back to the United States and being held accountable for what happened. And that would be a big dominant news cycle story with this kind of sky. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the sky, and we're going to do all signs. And I'm not going to spend hours on the all signs. Okay. Like I'm not going to this is probably going to be about 5 minutes for each of you. And I'll see what we can come up with, and if you're watching on the premiere, hit the like button. Don't forget, subscribe and help my channel grow, and check my description box out. You know the drill, guys. Thank you so much. So here's what it looks like. You can see that the moon and the sun and the moon and Mars are completely connected at 16 degrees. And there's an interesting Sabian symbol here that has to do with the head of a youth becoming a mature head or something like that. And I kind of thought of Sam Fried-Bankman because, of course, the guy was in his 20s, and Sam Fried-Bankman, I think. Anyway, he was in his 20s, and he was with a bunch of 20-year-olds who were handling way more money and without any board or trustees or responsibility overlording them than should have been feasible. All right. A lot of things were done completely wrong there. Anyway, you can see that this is happening over here. And this is where the great attractor sun is sitting, pretty close to that 15-degree great attractor, behind it in the deep bowels of the mysterious, super cluster of galaxies, etc. Is it coming towards us, or is it receding? And, this is a moon that reflects some of that great attractor intensity or spiritual energy. Maybe for some people, this could be very powerful in terms of a spiritual experience. And I didn't go into a lot of detail, but there is this trine between the Mars-Saturn energy that is very, very focused and positive. And anytime you have a Mars trine Saturn energy, and in this case, it's waning because Mars is retrograding. He was more strongly connected to Saturn in the week before this new moon, but the 2 weeks before this new moon, in fact. But the idea of it is that there has been cooperation between the god of Saturn, the god of structure and discipline and focus, and in this case, rules, especially for the people, and Mars. And so that is now a waning influence. It's no longer directly applying. It's like finishing up, but it is sort of embedded, the offering from Saturn to participate, and also waning and no longer as influential has been an ongoing retrograde Mars squaring Neptune. And, that has been about like cutting through the fog, the illusion, the delusion, where in your life you've been confused or have lost your way because you've been, caught up in the unreal or the fantastical. And certainly some of that can also be involving news stories that may still be ongoing regarding disclosures of things that are now becoming true or people are aware of that they were confused about, whatever that may be in the news story. All right, cycle. So, and there's Orcus, the Punisher of broken oaths. See him down here, guys? And I'd circle him, but when I start to move the thing forward, then it gets messy here. But there he is. He looks like an upside down Mercury with little dangly like arms falling down. And so we're going to look at how there could be an area of your life where there is a course correction because an oath a breaking of an oath is you're at risk of an oath breaking moment, right? There is another meaning with Orcus, according to this software, that he could also be about where we break the rules of the establishment, as well as where there's punishment for broken vows or oaths. So let's take a look at that for each sign and we'll get started. Now, I'm going to not start with Leo, and there's a good reason for it. I know what I'm doing. Because when people jump into the premiere, when I'm here in the chat box with you, then they're all confused and they leave because they think, oh, she's already done, the 4 signs before Leo kind of thing. Give me a minute, guys. It's queuing. All right, let's roll. Let's go to, don't forget, hit my like button. Check out my course that I'm teaching in February, and my all signs videos will be out on December 10th, and they're not going to be public. You have to purchase them. So get ready for that for 2023. So let's get talking about Aries. First of all, Mars is your Lord. So Mars is your number 1 planet. So every time we look at Mars for you, it's always a big deal, especially Aries rising. You can't ignore that planet. Aries rising people, sun and moon secondarily. So when Mars is retrograde for the Aries people, your life is definitely going at a slower pace. It's not that you stop still and don't do anything, but it definitely means that since October 28th through to January 12th, Aries are more contemplative, more inward, more slowed down. You're not driving forward anymore. You're in a kind of a steady state of maybe resting on a laurel. But you're certainly not taking bold action these days. You're waiting for Mars in January to move forward. And now he is connected to this full moon that reflects the great attractor and squares Orcus, the punisher of broken oaths. You must be careful here that you don't in some way. First of all, go back to June, the first 2 weeks of June, because that's when you had this experience of a new moon in your 3rd house of siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews, short distance travel, online learning and teaching, or skills-based learning and teaching. And when that new moon happened, the first 2 weeks of June, and the aftermath of that, May 30th, think about what you were doing in the 3rd house areas of the chart. And then now contextualize those new beginnings to what might be coming to fullness here, and how it may be in some way fruiting. So in my life, I'd say back then I was teaching a course called my Sky Reader class, and I'm teaching again right now, and it'll be finishing up just around the time of this moon. So it could be a completion and more than just a one way. Maybe I won't teach it again. Maybe there's some fullness, something really important in the 2 weeks that follow about that class I was teaching, because I am an Aries sun and moon, right? So I'm relating to that. And then this kind of punisher of broken oaths is a 6th house. Now the 6 is a house of sickness. So it's the things that you do not to be sick. It's also your daily health and work routines, the daily grind, the things you do, the way you do your job. And if you're employed, it's your place of employment. Now, the sky is mysterious. It can be that there is a broken oath in your employment structure, like a failure to meet an obligation by you or by your boss or a coworker or something like that. And so if that is true and that occurs, we'll just watch it with an observational eye and see what that might mean. And then technically you may be able to release some of this tension through your 12th house, which is your insights into your meditations, your dreams at night, your reveries, internally going within to resolve any kind of broken oath tension that could occur in 6th house matters. Now, 6th house is leases and tenancies, whether you're the landlord or the tenant. And I can relate to this because in June, I was reassured by my landlord that I could have the apartment I was renting until April. But then she broke the oath and changed her mind and came back and wanted her place back a few months later. And so maybe there's some connection in my story, for example, to this broken oath tenancy part of the sky. This is also your 6th house part of the sky that connects you to pets, all right, 4-legged and small animals that you can keep in your house. I suppose your goldfish will count. So let's see what happens there. It's mysterious. Who knows what this is going to mean, but we shall see. So keep ready for that. And certainly if there was any kind of change of plans around travel and connected to work in the past, this could be a rectification. You may take a work trip or something like that in the 2 weeks that follow this moon, or take a journey somewhere in the 2 weeks that follow this full moon, or also come to a fullness in a relationship, such as a sibling or childhood friend relationship. And a fullness Could be a completion of that relationship, but it can also be a new beginning. So these full moons have both sides to it. You may make decisions about your relationship to, say, a friend that's like a childhood friend, or a sibling, or extended family members, like aunts, uncles, and cousins, or a very firm, just climactic decision. Mars makes decisions about a trip. Okay. Taurus, sun, moon, and rising sign. Now, for you, this is happening, this full moon with Mars conjunct in your earnings and money house. This is your possessions as well. You possess a car, a sofa. Even though it's movable possessions, I have found that it can apply to real estate, contrary to popular belief. So I will say even real estate property is a possession. And now Mars, who cuts and ends and severs on a full moon, which is completion, may cut, end, or sever something to do with property, home, possessions, money, income. However, it is something that goes back to the first 2 weeks of June, when there was a new moon in this part of your chart. And you want to think about resources and money and newness and beginnings in the month of June. What is coming to fullness and completion in that area of your sky now? This is also what you put in your mouth and what you eat, and foods you might be addicted to, and substances that you ingest. And therefore, if you are have been cleansing out and you're beginning not to eat those things or drink those things back in June, this could be a full return to that part of the thing where you eliminate Mars, something that you ingest on a regular basis. Well, and you could do facial surgery with this placement, but I wouldn't do that until Mars is direct, which is after January 12th. But, things that are sharp, like dental surgery, facial surgery, could be Mars in the second house. Now, the other thing is that you have that square to the punisher of broken oaths, Orcus, sitting down here, that old Etruscan god, and also connected to ogres and demons and a bunch of negative things in the ancient lore. But anyway, we will not harp on it, but it's the fifth house. Now, the fifth house is where you have romance, sexuality, your children are here. Technically a romantic lover or a child could break an oath that they have with you. And if they break the oath, it could be just saying, like they said, they're going to do one thing, they're not going to do it. And how will you deal with that? To break the tension of an oath breaker, a lover, business partner could be, because this is a independent business enterprise, or the place of your children. You can focus on the things that you can do in your 11th house. And that would be about friends who are allies and benefactors, having some social time with friends to kind of mitigate this feeling of harm that could have happened through a fifth house oath break. But by the way, the Mars full moon is reflecting the sun in your 8th house. These are both money houses. 8 is like bank loans and mortgages, and and credit card debt, and taxes and tax rebates, and your spouse's money and business partner monies and investment monies in the market. So there's a lot of tension going on here with all the money stuff that Mars is really going to slice something away, right? And we do have Mercury, but he's not participating in the 9th house of courts. And I will say, if you are a Taurus and you're looking at legal issues to do with money, and Mercury is in the house of courts, but not directly participating in the lording over of this moon, is an interesting story. There may be that you would like to win some kind of settlement or judgment on legal matters, even inheritances, but there may be something standing in the way of that actually working. So, and Mercury is also in the house of academia. So maybe some problems with your tuition or something like that. Okay, so let's keep going. These are just guesstimates. I know it doesn't sound so cheerful. What can you do with Mars and Orcus, really? It's one of my least popular videos, I'm pretty sure. Watching me in the live premiere. Are you here? Don't forget, hit the like button. Why? My channel grows when you do that. Algorithms. It's a game called the algorithm game. Smash my like button. Alrighty. So Gemini, sun, moon, but always as most accurate rising sign. If you are a rising sign Gemini, and I'm a progressed rising sign Gemini, you're having this full moon in the house of you, your body, your identity, your personhood, your sense of character, your sense of self. This is a Mars on the steering wheel of your life, right? A part of the story of what you choose, Mars, what actions you take, Mars, what decisions you make, Mars, in the house of you. You got more control over this than most people. So just watch for accidents. This is classic Mars first house stuff. And Mars is here for all Gemini risings all the way through until next March, third week. So yeah, be cautious. Of course, he's retrograde. It's not likely an accident. I think he doesn't do outward shenanigans, but just be more cautious than normal in the 2 weeks that follow the new moon, that you don't injure yourself, burn yourself, cut yourself. These are Martian accidents, you know? And, but there is a full moon here. So go back to the first 2 weeks of June. What was going on regarding your choices and decisions and actions that you were taking personally and directly that had something to do with what could be coming to fullness now. And, you know, right now, Mars is looking across the way at the seventh house of committed relationships and business partnerships. So therefore, there may have been some things as well back then that are now up for grabs about your decisions regarding committed love relationships and or business partnerships, or things you wish to engage with your audience, marketplace, clients, all those significant others as well. And with the Punisher of broken oaths, Orcus sitting in your fourth house, some of this can be connected to land, property, home, and real estate. Now, I told you my story earlier about being a broken oath with my landlord. And it's possible that this is coming back up for some reason. And I've got this Punisher broken oath story already in my past. And what does this mean now? Is there a reconciliation around the broken oath? Is there, you know, who knows? But one of the things is to say, you know, the fourth house is more than just your home. It's more than just land and real estate. It also has to do with your deep ancestral lineage, your family of origin. Excuse me, if you do family systems theory, you know that there's this big deal thing where you have vows or agreements that the ancestors made and they're not yours to hold or keep. So in a way, maybe you'll break away from a family pattern or vow, you know, that you're not consciously aware that you're carrying and it's no longer yours to carry. And if you do, it leads to some lightness of being and some breakthrough energy in your 10th house of career. So let's see how that plays out. But on a practical note, this could involve contracts and agreements and oaths and vows regarding property, home, domestic life, residences, and real estate. That's playing out for you over the course of December 7th at 2 weeks. All right. Let's go, Cancer, sun, moon, and rising sign. This is happening for you, where this full moon conjunct Mars is happening in your 12th house. Technically, it's very subtle. Not only is Mars retrograde, which is subtle enough, but it's happening in a house that's in aversion to you. So it's more like under the surface of your reality, there is this big full light. This is 12th house can be about revenue generated from barter and trade from foreign lands. Therefore, your PayPal, Stripe accounts. It can also be things to do with your self-undoing, your own self-sabotage, your own addictions, and also with people who just don't have your back, you know, your hidden enemy factors. A full moon could shine light on something. So if somebody in your life is really not out to support you and is not your ally at all, then this could come to light in a full moon. But you would have a beginning of awareness on those first 2 weeks of June in the wake of the new moon in your 12th house as well. So take a look what was happening in the first couple of weeks of June, what might be coming to fullness and completion here now. With, you know, the sun on the great attractor in the 6th house of workaday routines and health challenges, you may be looking at also a solution to a health challenge. A full moon can shine a new light on something, but this health challenge will have something to do with either a karmic pattern or something to do with your own self undoing, so you can undo it, right? The Punisher of broken oaths is in the 3rd house of siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, short trips and travel, nieces and nephews, you know, skills-based learning. You know, like if you're learning something and there's a teacher in your life, for instance, an instructor, and there's a Punisher of broken oaths, maybe there's a breaking of a contract with a teacher or agreement that doesn't come to the right fruition. I don't know, possibly. And Orcus here could also mean a disagreement that's like a broken agreement or a broken oath with a sibling, especially siblings. It's really about siblings, but it can be extended family members as well. And any childhood friends that, you know, high school, university level, elementary and high school level friendships. So pay attention to that. But if there is this kind of unsettling thing in the 2 weeks that follow this moon that may even connect to last June regarding any of those types of people in your life, then also look at the fact that you can break through the energy of the opposition to the T-square will be in your 9th house of God, truth, wisdom, higher learning, academia, foreign travel, foreign lands. For some of you, this could literally just be somebody breaking an agreement to take a trip, or you're breaking the agreement to take a trip. And now, yeah, you can still travel. It's just not going to be that short-term domestic trip, but maybe something longer term, far away, far flung ninth house destination. So it's both the full moon in the 12th and the release point in the ninth are about foreign shores. So there's no doubt about it. There could be something for some of you where a kibosh trip that doesn't work leads you to, in the 2 weeks that follow, plan a trip that does work. And if you need legal affairs to sort something out, ninth house stuff can also be helpful, like getting the right visa or getting clear of restrictions for travel. Some countries still have passports for vaccines and stuff like that. So that could be a sign that there's going to be, in the 2 weeks of December 7th, that 2 weeks, some kind of releasing of a passport restriction, visa restriction. It could in fact impact your life in a positive way, actually. So just going to say that. I was just listening to a podcast the other day, and this Canadian was talking to Dr. Drew on YouTube, and he was telling Dr. Drew that Canadians who are not vaccinated can't enter the United States. And Dr. Drew didn't know that. And then Dr. Drew's wife was like trying to say, oh, no, all you have to do is show your negative COVID test at the border. And that's not true. So the United States TSA is going to reassess by January 8th, whether they're going to continue that restriction, being, of course, one of the only countries in the world left who have any kind of vaccine qualification to enter, given that the vaccines are now understood not to prevent transmission, but only maybe reduce intensity of illness. Well, I wouldn't say maybe, I'll get kicked off of YouTube. Anyway, just thought of that for you because I heard that news story yesterday, that thing going on. All right, so let's keep moving. Leo, sun, moon, and rising. And everyone in my chat box listening live in the premiere, please don't forget to hit the like button. All right, Leo, let's go. Let's get settled in here. What we want to do here is look at a full moon in your 11th house of good spirit. This is always a positive house. This is a very fortunate house. Has to do with people who are your friends, but specifically friends who benefit you, not friends with benefits, but just benefit you, And often you'll find favoritism, favors, leg ups and stuff from your friends in this part of the sky. And this is your karmic rewards for your karmic deeds, good deeds, and your payment of your karmic debt in the 6th. So here's a very rewarding feeling. You can have pennies from heaven coming out of the 11th. So keeping all that goodness in mind, this 11th house, which can also be your future plans for your life, has a big full light in it. What was going on, and this is your eldest sibling house, what was going on in your house of eldest sibling, dreams and plans, friends and allies, social groups of belonging, what was happening there in the first 2 weeks to June when you had a new moon in the 11th. And now what could possibly, Leo, be coming back to a fullness and a completion, where you can look at this as coming to a new level of culmination energy. And Mars, of course, makes decisions and takes action. He's retrograding. So again, it could be very interior decision-making, and you'll save the action plan till his direct motion after January 12th. And he's reflecting the sun in the house of children and lover and enthusiasm for life at 5th house and your independent business. So there's something connected perhaps to this part of your sky. Now, a punisher of broken oaths in your 2nd house can be anything because it's a money house, and it may connect to your earnings and your cash flow, your possessions and your resources. And this is, misdeeds are being punished. It's not necessarily a bad thing. So if there has been any kind of confuffle with your finances and resources, it says that there's something about that story in the 2 weeks that follow the full moon that is coming to sort of a balance. Orcus is like, oh no, you can't do that. You're like, okay, like a clawback. A client wants money back, or says they'll pay you and they don't, or I don't know, or there's a possession that you thought you really wanted, and someone promised it to you and then they changed their mind, that kind of thing. So certainly there's a possibility for some Leos that there is this intensity around resources and things to do with money or possessions in the 2 weeks that follow the moon. To release the tension, go to the 8th house, and that has to do with investments, inheritances, shared resources with a spouse or partner. It's not your paycheck. And in fact, technically your paycheck and your wages are that 2nd house. And I can only say, if something happened where you had a job and it ended, or something changed dramatically here, I wouldn't be surprised for some people, Leo, in the 2 weeks that follow this moon. But definitely go back to the first 2 weeks of June and see, when it comes to paycheck, money, resources that you earn, and things like that, what was going on back in the first 2 weeks of June that could be coming maybe to an ending. Like Mars does bring endings. There's just that, But since he's in the house of friends as allies and benefactors, I'd say also that should an ending come in a particular finance money making endeavor, there's probably something really good around the corner, especially after January 12th when Mars goes direct. You could also be making a decision to end a friendship. Okay. Technically, Mars, Moon, 11th, to sort of cut away from an existing friendship. All right, Virgo, Sun, Moon, and rising sign. This is you having that Orcus in the house of you, little upside down Orcus in your house of you. You know, if he's the punisher of broken nose, are you the punisher of broken nose? Do you adopt that stance of punishing those who break an agreement with you? Quite possibly that, or you break your own agreements and you're punishing yourself. Like, I promise not to eat, chocolate cookies anymore. They're bad for me. I'm going to let the dog out. He's whining. Give me a minute. Hang on, Virgo. Do you want out? You're just whining away. All right, I'm coming back. All right, back here I am. All right, so the full moon is in your 10th house of career and reputation. Now, technically, you don't have to have a career. This could be like my daughter's a Virgo. She's a full-time student. So your career as a student, you're a mom at home. Your career is you're a mom at home. So whatever, what's the thing you're doing in the world? The whole world sees you do. That's it, the action, praxis in the world. Okay, 10th house. So what is going on here where there's a full moon? Go back to the first 2 weeks of June when it comes to things like your career, your visible job, your actions in the world. And what is happening now is a full moon with Mars could make a change of decision, a change of direction, an ending in that particular job or career path. You may also be coming to a fullness to look at choices you wish to make and decisions that are critical. And you may be pondering those decisions in the 2 weeks that follow the December 7th moon, whether to stay with this job or the situation of this work or to leave. And of course, if there's a broken oath and you're doing it, you may be told the employer you'd stay for a year, you're not going to, or you're going to cut out before you said you would. You may be breaking an agreement you had with yourself about how long you were going to stay in that area of work. With the sun in the 4th house of home and private domestic life, on the great attractor, you're sort of also reflecting your home life. Venus is there as well, and so you've really been enjoying your home. I know my daughter, Venus, has been going through Sag for a while now, a couple of weeks now, and I'm recording this, by the way. It always goes to my Patreon community first. I'm recording on November 30th. And she totally cleaned and decorated and asked me to buy her a new carpet for her home. So a lot of you Virgos were have been beautifying your home and really streamlining, maybe even decluttering your home over the last few weeks before this moon. And then on this moon, there's Venus, sitting there, she's still prioritizing that. And so, but there also is a push pull between the enjoyment of your home and the action in your career. So some of you may be having big decisions you're making to break away from agreements regarding how much attention you're going to pay to your career. You can release the Orcus tension in the 7th house. Well, the 7th house is your significant other, your clients, your business partner. And maybe you might find a little bit of that is a relief from this other sky story that's taking place here. Love the one you're with, time with the one you love, time with your partner can be really positive. Now, you've got the oath breaker in your house. So you're one who has to be paying attention to your own agreements or inclined to punish those who break agreements with you. I'll leave that with you, Virgo, because of course you are definitely, in charge of this story. My Virgo rising girlfriend, I'm staying in her house right now. It was her dog who was whining. And, she's got Venus going through the 4th house, a female friend in the home. Right. So, they're stories that are so literal. Sometimes it blows me away. All right. So let's see what happens with that, Virgo. Let's keep going. I have a client, so I must continue at a decent pace, a client after you guys. One of my Discover Your Magic You're Born For readings. I am booked out till mid-February. If you want to see me, you better get in now. I'm going to have to close my calendar down a bit. I don't like I'm taking some time off so people can't book. I really don't like having my bookings out 2 months in advance. All right, Libra, sun, moon, and rising sign. This for you is a story of a full moon in your 9th house, your 9th house of God, religion, wisdom, truth, dharma, higher education, book publishing, trips to foreign lands and shores, temples and pilgrimages. All right, you got the just courts and legal matters. So 9th house stuff. And the full moon here for you Libras is that your focus is here in the first 2 weeks of June. New moon here. Did you take a trip to a foreign land? Did you apply for a university? Did you engage a legal dispute? Now this is coming to a full light. Mars is retrograde. I think it's like very interior decision-making time for you regarding these themes. You may retrograde, go back to travel to a foreign land or plan that trip, but you've been to that foreign shore before. And a full moon here is also reflecting the sun in the third house of trips and travel as well. And so again, there's a lot of trips and travel. Siblings and aunts, uncles, cousins, that's where the sun is sitting. Maybe you might travel with any of those people or a really good friend. It's like your childhood friends or the kind of friends you can sit around in your pajamas and watch shows and be greasy, or they can knock on your door and you let them in, without warning. All right, that kind of real bestie, close friend stuff. So there's that. And then you may have a push-pull here too, though, right? So it's an opposition of full moon. So between things you wish to do in your local environment, third house, versus the desire to go far-flung traveling abroad, for example. Certainly with Mars here, you may be changing your mind about something to do with foreign lands and travel, higher education, courts, or religious beliefs and philosophy. The Punisher of Broken Oaths in the 12th house is very odd because it's like, it is also a foreign shore house. It also is a house of your inner interior spiritual nighttime dreams, meditations and stuff. And yet, Punisher Broken Oaths is also in a sabotage self-undoing house. Did you quit some kind of addictive substance only to let yourself down? And then, do you want to punish yourself because you broke your vow not to drink any alcohol during the holidays or something? So this is starting December 7th, add 2 weeks, and of course, go back to June, first 2 weeks to see what was percolating in your life. If you pay attention to your daily routines, your sixth house, your health habits and stuff, some of the tension in the sky can be ameliorated in the first 2 weeks after December 7th. This is the house of the father in Indian Vedic astrology, the ninth, cutting away, breaking away, ending a relationship with a patriarchal or father-like figure can be true for some of you Libra rising, secondarily sun and moon people. Excuse me. I'm just getting over the flu still. I mean, I am over it, but I've got this lingering cough, tickle thing. All right. Let's go Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. Da, da, da. My son is a Scorpio rising. One of my best friends is a Scorpio sun. Okay, so what happens here is that the full moon is in your 8th house of other people's money, chunky money, inheritance money, real estate, inheritance money, bank loans, mortgages, credit card debts, shared resources with a spouse, alimony, palimony, the inheritances. Did I say that? All right, you get the gist, right? That kind of money, speculation, stock market monies, investment monies. All right, so money makes money makes money house. All right, 8th house. So here we have a full moon. Go back to the first 2 weeks of June. What was going on in that part of your sky that has to do with that kind of money? All right, and now what's going on is that Mars is here. He will be in this part of your sky till the 3rd week of March, Scorpios, and he's like really, he can eliminate here, but he's retrograding. You may go back over an old investment strategy, and go back and look at the details of an inheritance, go backward to go over old ground to do with things to do with your spousal resources and shared monies with your spouse or business partner. So all this is being like regressed, go back until January 12th. And now we have a full moon a big bright light in here. So it's like a flashlight in a money house. It's also a secrets house. FYI, things that are hidden from your view, secrets can be spilled. And it's just 2 weeks that follow this new moon. It's a really interesting house. It's like where a lot of the slimy stuff can be sometimes, under the rock. And Mars here could be one to shed light with a full moon on something that's very important for you to know so you can make a proper decision and take proper action, especially after January 12th when he's in a direct motion. A full moon here definitely can disclose or reveal something that was hidden from your view, a secret of a spouse or family member, a connection to money stories that were unknown to you, etc. And the sun in your paycheck, earnings, resources, possessions house, of course, we got a whole money axis that's being lit up for you. It's definitely a money story. And And there's a broken oath punishment story in the 11th. Now, the 11th house is the allies and friends house, and the, people who can benefit you. And possibly you're not breaking an agreement or an oath, but they are. Is there anyone punishing a broken agreement? Have you had a broken agreement with an eldest sibling? Even the 11th can be an eldest sibling. But if you don't have an eldest sibling, or that's not relevant, it's just, what other person are you engaging with in the December 7th, add 2 weeks, full moon outflow, in which you feel like there's been a transgression, or they feel there's been a transgression around an agreement, or of some sort, like an oath, an agreement, a vow, that kind of thing. You can put some energy into your creativity, your enthusiasm for life, your children, your romantic life, in order to sort of dispense a bit of the tension in the 2 weeks that follow this moon. If hypothetically the release point is the Pisces 5th house. Okay. So it wouldn't hurt you to dive into some creativity and some muse inspiration, especially if a friend has let you down, which is what this could be. And if a friend let you down around some financial matters, or there is a friend who reveals the secret that you feel is a breaking of agreements between you, or lets you down in some way. I know it's not the most cheery forecast. I get it. It's hard to take the Punisher of broken oaths and make it into something slap happy. All right, you're watching in the premiere. I bet you're here. I bet all my people are here, right? Okay, one rare bird, one wise lady, Jupiter the Mercury with the message, Jupiter, Stephen the Jupiterian. Who else usually there? I can't remember everybody. These are the names that I remember because they're so funky. Misbehaving, LA Taylor, etc. Some of you may be here live. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to hit the, and Kelly, you're so lovely. Kelly always gives me these super chat bonuses, and I'm like, oh my God, she's so lovely. Kelly K and all that. So thank you so much. So anyway, just hit my like button. Let's move on. I'm sure this is going to be one of my least popular videos. I'm not how to go cheerful on some of this stuff. Okay, Sagittarius, you've got the great attractor in the sign of you. Isn't that something, right? The sun and the great attractor. You are the belly of the great attractor, you Sag people. And that mysterious body that I talk about in my introduction to the video. The moon reflecting the great attractor sun in your 7th house of significant partnerships. This is like your marriage partner, maybe a business partner. It's also legal contracts and agreements itself, the 7th house. And it can also be about your audience and marketplace. Say you have to, service clients or sell things to an audience, or, that kind of thing. That's because it's 10th house from the 10th house. If you wonder what it is, it's a derived house meaning. So you're going to focus a big full moon light here on this area of your sky that is also germane to the first 2 weeks of June when there was a new moon here. So for some of you, it could have been the beginning of a new relationship, a committed relationship that goes back to June. And if you didn't begin a new committed relationship back then it could have been just things going on with the one you're with, your business or marriage partner, that were really in your face in the first 2 weeks of June. And now they're back again for a full round of endings and beginnings, completions, culminations, and decisions. Now, not easy for, especially for a Sagittarius rising, to have Mars in the 7th house for a long time, August 20th to March. And this third week of March, and this is often associated with difficulty in that significant relationship part of your sky, where your partner has aggression or anger, or there's a lot of conflict between you and a partner. Sometimes Mars can cut it off, cut it away, end a relationship. Just keep that with business or love. And so now Mars is retrograding. So sometimes it could look with a retrograde Mars of going back with it. First of all, an old lover, an old significant committed partner person showing up out of the woodwork, suddenly in your story, but otherwise your current relationship has been strained. Mars is going retrograde to try to work it out, to figure out if there's a way to make it work, go back over old grounds of arguments and stuff and figure out what you need to do. But he is on a full moon now, and exactly conjunct that full moon. And there's going to be some major choice points here as this full moon 2 weeks follows on the 7th of December at 2 weeks. Now, are you in charge of the decision making? Maybe not, because the 7th house is the partner or the other making that decision. So now you'll find out if things are going to work out with a person, if there's been difficulty. I would not start a new relationship under this transit. If you could avoid it, it is a gnarly beginning. Now, second of all, Orcus, the punisher of broken oaths, in the house of reputation. One thing I say, the 10th house is a house of weddings. It's the house of reputation and your career. So if you have, any worries that your reputation could be besmirched here because of a broken oath, that could be this, like, your partner committed to move in with you or get married, or you're married and the vows of your marriage are an oath, right? And they're breaking the oath, or somebody's breaking the oath, and your reputation is feeling like, oh no, there's a punisher of broken oaths up there. Could be something like that. It could be. Also could be a work situation in which there's some kind of unexpected disagreement, and it revolves legal contracts, because the seventh house are legal contracts and marriage, right? Both are contractual agreements. And now there's a punisher of the broken oaths in the 10th house. If you are the punisher because an employee broke an oath, or you're the employed one, or something, there's definitely maybe kerfuffle in the 2 weeks that follow in the work environment as well. You can release some of the tension in the 4th house, the Pisces zone, where you spend more time at home, enjoying your home, dreaming and daydreaming at home. Jupiter's there, expanding your home, being optimistic and hopeful in your home, right? This is a place where you can kind of buoy yourself up and not focus so much on that gnarly Orcus in your 10th house of reputation and career. All right, Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. Capricorn, you have a full moon that's taking cue from the new moon back in May 30th. So the first 2 weeks of June, and the full moon now in the house of work habits and routines. That's your 6th house. Sickness, so health challenges. Mars here, a lot of Cappies have had surgeries or inflammation or challenges with their health, or have been working in ways to cut away from health challenges, maybe exercise more. And this has been true maybe since August 20th. Now with this Mars retrograde and conjunct a moon in your 6th house, there's a big spotlight over the 2 weeks that follow December 7th on your health, on your work routines, on your daily life, on your debt. Karmic debt is here, but it's also, I've seen it look like pets, tenancies and legal agreements around tenancies and leasing things, homes. And it's also about, credit card debt or any kind of debt, really. So you could have Mars, elimination of a debt, a completion of a debt, a payment of a debt, like done, full moon, complete it, finish it, done, and or things to do with pets. Now, Mars is retrograde, and so if it's about pets, it's not a new story. And then Mars here, be careful with your pet. If not a goldfish, it can be your pet could have an incident, an accident, or an injury. So I'm not trying to worry you. I'm letting you know what was going on with a pet in the first 2 weeks of June. Is there any way this is a pet story similar to what's going on with regards to leasing and a home or tenancy or landlord situations in June that could be playing out here? Punisher of broken oaths, Orcus in the 9th house of courts and legal affairs can also be very much, or foreign lands and foreign shores, about difficulties you may have, for example, importing a pet to a foreign land, or a broken agreement with a breeder and going to court over it, or a broken agreement regarding real estate or property leasing in foreign lands or because of foreign shores, or some kind of court matter that is gnarly because there's a broken oath punishment energy going on in there. The judge declares that thou shalt be punished, who knows, it's not easy because it's a T-square. And then you can see that you can break some of this gnarly sky tension in the 2 weeks that follow by really focusing on 3rd house matters, your siblings, your extended family, your local neighborhood, enjoying that local neighborhood, expanding your local neighborhood, taking trips and enjoyment trips. Jupiter's down there just for fun, learning something that inspires you. Jupiter is in your 3rd house right now until December 20th. And just doing some of those things, like literally taking a course or going out to the local neighborhood pubs and enjoying yourself, can help you release some of this tension, or hanging out with siblings or your best friends and stuff like that that's going on in the other part of your sky. And I don't know, I'd say because Mars is the ruler of your house of real estate, for some of you, there's definitely things to do with homeland, real estate, leasing, things like that. They're definitely up in the air in the 2 weeks that follow this moon. All right, Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising, and I'm one of you. For us, we're having the energy of a big full moon in the romance house. I used myself as an example at the beginning of the video, is that in the first 2 weeks of June, I got involved in a romance. And basically then when Mars retrograded on October 28th, that romance, I pulled away from it, and, I'm reassessing it. And then Mars is now in a full moon here. So there's a definite culmination around the house of children, romance, lovers, sexuality, independent business enterprise, so which I have my own business. I may be reassessing and making new directional shifts and decisions. December 7th at 2 weeks. And in fact, I've taken time off work and I'm not working for 2 weeks in December. I haven't had a 2-week vacation forever. So will I use that post full moon to assess my business plan? Absolutely will do that. There's creativity and the muse in this part of the chart, and it's Gemini. So it's about writing and communicating. And so, yeah, I'm also going to be rewriting a manuscript. Oh my God, a hummingbird with a little red head just flew right up to my window. Hummingbirds are the nectar of joy in life. So the 5th house is the house of joy. You cannot make this shit up, guys. If you're watching in the live premiere, right? Hit the like button. Oh my God. So Mars is retrograding in the house of joy for us. And this is like Mars is saying, where's your true motivation for joy? Where's your passion? We're going back over on ground to find out where that may be. Now, the full moon, the 2 weeks that follow, something's coming to fullness here in that 5th house. And there's a square to the punisher of broken oaths in Virgo, in your 8th house of other people's money. That's your inheritance money, your bank loans, your taxes, your investment portfolios in the stock market. Secrets are here too. People can reveal secrets. I'm kind of mysterious. What would the underworld god Orcus do in an underworld type house? He would definitely want to punish someone for keeping a secret. So there may be the exposure of a secret, and the oath breaker will be punished. Your lover, I didn't tell you the truth, or your child told you a lie. We'll see. And it was a secret, but now you found out. So that's December 7th at 2 weeks. Get ready for that. But on the other hand, you can release some of this tension in your 2nd house of earning. So for example, it could be that you're like a punisher broken oaths, is that your accountant said, oh, don't worry, you don't owe any money for that. That's not a tax issue. And then you find out it is, you're pissed off, or somebody's pissed off. Anyway, the joy factor in the 2 weeks that follow this culminating Mars derived moon is to focus a little on the 2nd house. So this is like focus on what you eat healthy, put in your mouth, but also focus on expanding your earnings, right? Jupiter's here in it's not drawn in there, but he's with Neptune in your 2nd house. Plant seeds for expanding your earnings. He's here till December 20th. There's something about what you can do in your earnings and possessions house. You could acquire a new possession to bring you a little relief from the sky tension. That's something that you really need or want, that's expansive and brings you a sense of faith, hope, and optimism with Jupiter there. That's okay to do that too. You could actually possess something new in the 2 weeks that follow this moon that brings you joy. I know I'll let you know what I possess that brings me joy. Finally, there's money luck in the 5th house. I have to tell you, it's lottery, speculation, casinos, and gaming. I think I started buying lottery tickets more avidly in June. And maybe one of your tickets, if you do that kind of thing, Aquarius, will pay off. Full moon, culmination, completion, and harvest. And Mars is just like saying retrograde, right? Because, we're going back over old ground. We've been doing this before. Mars will go direct on January 12th. So you also could maybe claiming prize money anytime after that. Who knows? Just as an idea, just as a fun idea. And then we're going to move to the final sign, who's first, but always first. Pisces, the sun, moon, and rising sign in your sky. There is a full moon in your 4th house of home, real estate, land, property, private, domestic life, residential life. The house of the mother, if your mom is alive, could be about mom. Now, what was going on in June, the first 2 weeks? Because it was after a new moon in the house of homeland and real estate. I think I'll use my sister Cindy as an example, Pisces rising. I think that was about the time there was conversation about maybe taking possession of her father-in-law's home with her husband. And I bet you any money for someone like her, what we're seeing here, Mars is going back over old ground. There's a full light of completion and maybe new decisions and new clear directions regarding that theme. So probably December 7th, add 2 weeks, that story or theme will come back to her and her husband about whether they should take possession of the father's home, because he's now going to be moving into a old age home, or like a extended care, because he's quite old in his 90s. So what things were going on in the first 2 weeks of June to do with land, property, home, real estate? In this case, construction can also be Mars here, or conflict and arguing in your home. Be careful, since August 20th through to March. Mars here, if you're not building something or working energetically on projects in your home or constructing your home or something like that, then you could be fighting with somebody in your home. I've seen it. Like, I can tell you the stories, man. When Mars was 6 months in Aries, my ex-husband's a Cap rising, had two women living with him, his wife to be and a roommate, and the two women were fighting like literally cat claw fights with each other. And so that was that 6-month Mars transit in 2020 through Aries. So this is an extended Mars story for you. So watch for fights in the home, but nonetheless, a full moon and a completion December 7th at 2 weeks. What is coming to fullness regarding property, home, and real estate decisions and actions? And it's something that's already been in place since back in June, and especially after August 20th. And finally, and real momentum in these matters, particularly after January 12th, when Mars is direct. Now you got this Punisher of broken oaths, Orcus, in your 7th house of your marriage partner or your business partner or legal contracts and agreements. Legal contracts and agreements around the home, on real estate, property, can be up in the air. There may be situations where your primary partner, business and love, is the punisher of a broken oath or is breaking an oath. And I don't know, it's hard to say. This is like a mysterious position. So what agreements and what vows will maybe be looked at as having been broken? And is there any need for punishment here? And what does punishment look like if you're married? I mean, it could be that your partner is just experiencing a broken oath from somebody in their life. Square, the sun could be a father figure, and they're dealing it up, and it really isn't your story at all. Okay, so the father says, yeah, you can have my place when I go to the old age home, and changes their mind or something like that. But anyway, the focus of the release point is you. Jupiter in the house of you makes you more jovial and buoyant and optimistic and willing to see life as a half full cup right now. Jupiter will be there until December 20th. And so you have this eternal optimism and faith that you can grab a hold of if your partner's going through a difficult time with the father figure, if there's confuffles and uncertainty and directional shifts around home and where you live. If any of these things are happening, this is positive in a way. Mars can bring accidents in the home as well. Be careful for that, or accidents close to home. So be careful for that as well. During the 2 weeks, especially that follow this full moon. Well, thank you everybody for listening. This is excuse me, this is me going live. You know, I'm in a live premiere with you. So please hit my like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out my description box, sign up for my Divine Timing Masterclass, some really cool arcane tools for astrology, understanding the future through the lens of prediction. And you can sign up for that if you are at least an advanced or significantly good beginner. I'm not teaching you what is a planet, what is a house, you know, we're not that basic. And, you know, or you're an advanced or intermediate type, it's good for you as well. I think you'll enjoy it. I've taught that class twice. I'm going to extend it a little and add some new content, so it's not the same old. And that's going to be starting in February for 4 weeks. So come on and join me in that if you like. Oh, the light is so weird. I look kind of shiny. Thanks, guys. And don't forget, before I leave, hit the like button. I'll see you guys on my next video, which I believe is going to be my 2023 all signs video. Probably going to take me 2 hours to do it. And it's going to cover the highlight for each separate sign, because my 1 hour videos that you can buy for $14.95 or the bundle for $47 for all signs is going to be coming out on December 10th. And that's a labor of love when you get like 60 minutes to 70 minutes of content that goes into exactitude about your year ahead. I just want to put that in YouTube for free because, you know, seriously, I mean, honestly, I've been selling it for 3 years. It's worth me actually generating some revenue from that content. And I hope you'll support me in that when it's ready to come out into the public. And I just gave it away half price for people who are on my mailing list. If you're not on my mailing list, get on my Cosmic Moonshine newsletter, for goodness sakes. It's the kind of thing where if you were on that list, you would have got the half price offer, and you get all kinds of perks when you join my Cosmic Moonshine weekly forecast newsletter. And that's just one of the ones you would have missed out on. So just jump aboard. I'm always giving specials, early bird discounts, freebies, and all kinds of stuff to the people subscribed to Cosmic Moonshine. Ciao, ciao.